There is drone footage circulating right now that Dubai's tourism board does not want you to see. It was shot in March 2026, just weeks ago, and what it shows isn't a construction delay, or a slow season, or a temporary dip in bookings. What it shows is rows upon rows of empty docks, hundreds of moorings with nothing in them, walkways that once buzzed with the sound of wealth in motion, silent, fenders pressing against concrete with no hull to hold, paint peeling from forgotten bows, scum collecting where champagne corks used to float. This is Dubai Marina, Port Rashid, Mina Seyahi. Combined, these three locations were home to over 2,000 vessels, the beating heart of the Gulf's luxury nautical world, a floating index of global wealth that took 2 decades to build. Occupancy today, 45%, 800 million pounds in asset value, gone in under a week. 12,000 jobs vanished in under 4 months. And the yachts? They didn't sink. They didn't burn. They just left. Quietly, quickly, and with no intention of coming back. To understand how the most ambitious marina project on Earth collapsed this fast, you have to understand what it actually was. And more importantly, what it was hiding underneath all that spectacle. Because what happened to Dubai's marinas wasn't bad luck. It was the logical conclusion of a machine that was always more fragile than it looked. Let's go back to the beginning. October 17, 2003. Construction crews broke ground along a barren stretch of Dubai's coastline. There was nothing there, just sand, heat, and ambition. The plan called for a 3.5-kilometer man-made canal flanked by glass towers, lined with moorings, and engineered to rival the most storied marina destinations on Earth: Monaco, San Remo, Port Hercule. Dubai wasn't going to match them. Dubai was going to outshine them. By the end of the decade, more than 2,000 slips would line the water across Dubai Marina, Port Rashid, and Mina Seyahi. The infrastructure was designed to accommodate vessels up to 160 meters, from everyday pleasure craft all the way to the floating palaces of billionaires. Dredgers moved millions of cubic meters of sand to carve the canal out of nothing. Imported palm trees and marble promenades promised a lifestyle as exclusive as the French Riviera. Developers described the project as a new anchor for global wealth. That phrase matters. A new anchor for global wealth. Not a marina, not a harbor, an anchor. A place where capital from London, Moscow, and Mumbai would arrive, moor itself, and stay. The construction boom drew engineers, marine architects, and service crews from across Asia and Europe. By 2010, the skyline had been transformed. High-rise towers reflected off the water. Docks filled with vessels registered in the Cayman Islands, Malta, and the British Virgin Islands. A floating index of money that had no permanent home but had chosen Dubai as its temporary one. Dubai's name appeared in yachting magazines and global rankings. No longer an upstart. A pier. A destination. The stage was set, and for the better part of a decade, the performance was flawless. By late 2019, the machine was running at full speed. Official records put occupancy at 88 to 90% in the final quarter of that year. Some weekends, every single mooring was spoken for. The marinas logged an average of 12 new vessel arrivals every month. Charter revenue for 2019 sat between 100 and 170 million pounds, a figure that dwarfed every regional competitor and confirmed what everyone already believed. Dubai had won the Gulf. The owner demographics told their own story: Russian oligarchs, Saudi royals, British expatriates, Indian business magnates, European and American executives. For many of them, a berth in Dubai wasn't just a place to park a yacht. It was a trophy, a statement, a bolt hole, somewhere to anchor wealth, host parties, and wait out instability elsewhere. Dubai's reputation as a safe haven for the ultra-rich was as carefully maintained as the hulls gleaming in the marina sun. Then the pandemic hit. Occupancy dropped to 65%. The walkways fell silent for the first time in a decade. But here's the thing. It bounced back, faster than almost anyone expected. By 2023, occupancy had climbed back to 88%. Charter bookings surged 25 to 30%. Marina restaurants and service firms reported revenues approaching their best ever years. The recovery looked complete. The story looked intact. But beneath the surface, something had changed. And this is where things start to get complicated. The owner mix had shifted. More vessels sat unused for months. Flags changed quietly, not for aesthetic reasons, but to evade sanctions. Crew numbers were cut to skeleton staff. The marinas looked full, but the energy was different. Brokers started whispering about nervous owners exploring alternatives in the Mediterranean. Service firms noticed late payments. Contract renegotiations became routine. The illusion of stability was still holding. But it was an illusion now, and it depended on three things staying true simultaneously: the continued inflow of global wealth, the absence of regional conflict, and the unshakable perception that Dubai was safe. Remove any one of those three pillars, and the whole structure becomes vulnerable. On February 28, 2026, all three moved at once. What happened next shocked everyone in the industry. Just after sunrise on February 28th, the first warning hit. Within 4 hours, global insurance syndicates issued emergency advisories. All Gulf waters, including Dubai's marinas, were reclassified as high risk. Premiums for yacht coverage surged by 300% in a single morning. Policies that once cost £80,000 a year suddenly demanded £320,000, if coverage could be secured at all. For owners with vessels moored at Dubai Marina, Port Rashid, and Mina Seyahi, the numbers landed like a physical blow. Lena Khalil, senior analyst at HSBC Middle East, described the aftermath plainly. Over £800 million in asset value was erased from Dubai's marinas in less than a week. Buyers vanished. Brokers froze. Lenders started calling in debts. The market for super yachts and pleasure craft didn't gradually deteriorate. It collapsed overnight. Not from physical damage to a single vessel. Not from a storm or a fire or a mechanical failure. From the sudden withdrawal of trust. That's it. That's the entire mechanism. Trust left, and with it, everything else. Charter bookings were canceled en masse, crew contracts suspended, service companies, mechanics, caterers, cleaners, electricians, watched their revenue evaporate in real time. The luxury ecosystem that depended on seamless capital flow and unshakable confidence in Dubai's safety unraveled faster than anyone had modeled. By midday, aerial footage of empty slips and idle hulls was circulating online. The physical vacancy that followed wasn't gradual. It was the visible aftermath of a single financial shock, echoing through every corner of the marina economy simultaneously. 45%. That is the official occupancy figure for March 2026, a number that would have been considered impossible, unthinkable, just 2 years earlier. Where the docks once had waiting lists, nearly 2,000 vessels now sit idle across Dubai Marina, Port Rashid, and Mina Seyahi. The drone footage that swept across social media captured the scale of it instantly. Rows of empty moorings, hulls bleaching in the sun, walkways where no crew moved, no guests arrived, no deals were struck. In a city built entirely on spectacle, where the visible was always the point, the silence felt louder than any headline. The vacancy isn't just a number, it's a physical statement. The camera pans across what used to be a floating parade of global wealth. Now, paint peels from neglected bows. The waterline collects scum. High-rises reflect off empty water instead of polished decks. The geometry of absence is unmistakable. 2,000 berths meant for 2,000 vessels, and half of them unclaimed. For marina operators, each empty slip is a bleeding wound. Monthly mooring fees, once a reliable, predictable income stream, have dried up. Service crews, mechanics, and cleaning contractors watch their contracts disappear. Every idle yacht means a lost job, a closed business, a missed payment somewhere down the line. The viral drone clip didn't just document a downturn, it made the collapse visible to the world. The city that once sold itself as the ultimate safe harbor for global wealth was now broadcasting its emptiness, berth by berth, hull by hull, in real time. But here's where it gets worse. The yachts didn't just stop arriving. The ones that were already there left. AIS tracking data and port logs reveal the full scale of the exodus. 70% of Russian-owned vessels rerouted almost immediately, heading for Turkish, Greek, and Croatian ports, convoys slipping past the breakwaters in the early morning hours. Brokers describe a rush to Mediterranean marinas, Bodrum, Mykonos, Limassol. Destinations where insurance still held and the threat of conflict felt like someone else's problem. GCC nationals shifted course too. Many vessels relocated to Saudi Arabia's Red Sea coast, chasing quieter harbors and fresh incentives offered at Enium and the King Abdullah Economic City. Nearly half of the European-flagged fleet, long a fixture of Dubai's Marina identity, departed for the French and Italian Riviera, where buyers and charter guests were already waiting. American executives didn't hesitate either. Instructions were sent. Cross the Suez, head for the Caribbean, St. Bart's, Nassau, Antigua. The season was just beginning. Ahmed Nasser, a veteran marina manager, watched the exodus unfold in real time. Familiar hulls disappeared from their slips within days. What they left behind: unpaid invoices and silent radios. The departure routes traced a map of global wealth on the move, capital unmoved by sentiment, unswayed by loyalty, always chasing the next safe harbor. And what became clear, as the docks emptied, was something that Dubai's marina economy had never been forced to confront so starkly. This was never a community. It was a congregation of convenience, and the moment the conditions changed, the congregation dispersed. That's when everything started to fall apart, in every direction at once. The human cost arrived fast and hit hard. 12,000 jobs vanished from Dubai's marine sector in less than 4 months. Dr. Sima Al-Fassi, a marine ecologist with the Dubai Environment Agency, describes it as a chain reaction. When the yachts left, the service contracts disappeared. Crews, cleaners, mechanics, caterers, gone. Every idle hull meant another family without income. But the damage didn't stop with payroll. Maju Masad, head of Dubai's Port Safety Division, recorded a sharp and alarming drop in active infrastructure. Out of 320 navigation buoys, nearly half, 150, were decommissioned or left unmaintained as funding dried up. These floating markers, once critical for safe passage through the marinas, now drift or rust out of position, turning what used to be precision-engineered waterways into a patchwork of hidden hazards. And then, there's what's happening below the waterline. Water samples from March 2026 show fuel and oil leaks averaging 3,200 liters per month across Dubai's main marinas. Turbidity readings, a measure of water clarity, spiked by 47%. Dissolved oxygen levels dropped by 22%, stressing fish populations and accelerating algae blooms along the hulls of abandoned boats. Dr. Al-Fassi's warning is unambiguous. This isn't cosmetic. Every month of neglect pushes the ecological recovery window further out. The marinas, once Dubai's most visible symbol of luxury, now broadcast a different message: decay, danger, a future that is visibly slipping out of reach. And then the banks started filing. Bank records from spring 2026 reveal the next stage of fallout: a sharp and sustained rise in loan defaults tied to luxury yachts and marina front properties. In just 3 months, Dubai's major lenders reported £1.1 billion in non-performing marine loans, a figure that dwarfs anything seen during the 2008 financial crash in this sector. Liquidation notices stacked up: 18 in March, 12 in April, another 9 by mid-May. As banks scrambled to recover assets that suddenly had no buyers, the property market, once buoyed by the promise of marina views, faltered in lockstep. Penthouse prices in Dubai, Marina fell by 40% from their 2025 highs. Sellers outnumbered buyers 10 to 1. Even trophy apartments with direct marina access sat unsold for months. Lenders unable to offload repossessed yachts or luxury condos began writing down their books, fueling a wider sense of contagion across Dubai's financial sector. Analyst Maya Sundaram put it plainly: the city's luxury real estate engine was always built on fragile foundations, a web of international credit, speculative investment, and the assumption that global wealth would never stop flowing. The collapse of the marina economy hasn't just punctured that illusion. It sent shockwaves through banks, developers, and anyone holding debt linked to Dubai's waterfront. The risk now isn't contained to the docks. When trust evaporates and asset values collapse overnight, the damage spreads, fast and far. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, the party was just getting started. In the same months that Dubai's marinas emptied, the Mediterranean's docks filled to capacity. Port authorities in Monaco, Antibes, and Bodrum reported a 15% surge in super yacht arrivals for the 2026 season, a gain that outpaced every previous year on record. Waiting lists in the French and Italian Riviera stretched longer than they had in decades. Charter brokers in Athens and Palma de Mallorca fielded inquiries from owners who until recently called Dubai home. Turkish and Greek marinas moved fast. Governments fast-tracked permits for new slips. Seasonal crew contracts spiked across the region. The calendar for Mediterranean yacht events, from the Cannes Yachting Festival to the Monaco Yacht Show, expanded to accommodate overflow in secondary ports. And Dubai's own boat show, once a fixture of the global circuit, was quietly cancelled for 2027. Quietly. No press release. No announcement. Just gone. European marinas, once cautious about overcapacity, now posted record occupancy and rising fees. For every empty slip in Dubai, there was a new arrival on the Côte d'Azur or the Aegean. The center of gravity in the world's luxury yacht trade had shifted, visibly, measurably, and permanently. The winners wasted no time making that fact known. So what comes next for Dubai? The projections circulating among city planners right now present three very different futures, and none of them are easy. The optimistic scenario: occupancy stabilizes at 30% by 2029, assuming global tensions ease and aggressive redevelopment attracts a new wave of buyers. Proposals include converting empty slips into public waterfront spaces, repurposing dry docks for commercial use, and rebranding the marina as a hub for tech startups rather than super yachts. Even this best case requires something that no redevelopment budget can simply purchase: trust. And trust, once broken, doesn't return on the back of a rebrand. The more likely outcome, according to current trends, is a prolonged period of stagnation. By 2032, analysts project that only 1 in 5 berths may see regular use, the rest left to weather, neglect, and the slow accumulation of environmental damage. Maintenance costs climb, hazards multiply. The marina's reputation as a ghost port hardens into something permanent. The luxury ecosystem that once fed 1,000 businesses becomes a memory, replaced by empty storefronts and fading banners. And the worst-case scenario? It's already visible in parts of the waterfront. If abandonment rates continue at their current pace, more than 60% of Dubai's prime marina slips could stand empty within a decade. The city that defined itself by spectacle, that built its entire global identity on the idea that you could will ambition into permanence, risks becoming a cautionary tale. A place the world's wealth visited once, decided wasn't safe, and never returned to. Here's the thing that nobody in Dubai's luxury industry wants to say out loud. The marina wasn't just an amenity. It wasn't just a nice backdrop for penthouse sales or a convenient mooring for visiting oligarchs. It was the living proof of a promise. The promise that Dubai was a place where global wealth could park itself safely, indefinitely, without consequence. Every full berth was a vote of confidence. Every yacht that arrived was an endorsement. And the entire ecosystem, the hotels, the restaurants, the service firms, the property market, the city's global image, was downstream of that confidence. When the confidence left, it didn't just take the yachts. It took everything the yachts had been anchoring. 12,000 jobs, 800 million in asset value, 1.1 billion in non-performing loans, 45% occupancy where there used to be 90. These aren't just numbers. They're the price of a single week when the world looked at Dubai and decided, collectively, instantly, without negotiation, that it was no longer the safest place to be. That is how fragile the machine always was. Not weak in any visible sense, not poorly built, not obviously flawed, just dependent, entirely, structurally dependent, on a perception that could evaporate in a morning. The corroding hulls and silent marinas that fill those drone clips today warn of more than lost luxury. They mark a rupture in Dubai's global image, a rupture that took 20 years to build and less than a week to open. Yacht culture didn't just decorate Dubai, it anchored an entire promise. And now that anchor is dragging through sand. What's left behind isn't just empty berths, it's a warning, written in salt and steel, about what happens when a city builds its identity not on what it produces, but on what it can attract. Because attraction is confidence. And confidence, as it turns out, is the most fragile thing in the world. Drop your thoughts below. And if this is the kind of analysis you come here for, the kind that strips the spectacle and asks what's actually holding it up, you already know what to do.